Welcome on in, golf fans. It's your boy Gsluke here with our weekly live stream. This time, it's a major championship. It hits a little bit different. The excitement's there, of course, with the Open Championship. And excited to bring you guys all of your DFS and prop analysis for this week. Let's hang out. Let's figure out what the heck to do with our lineups this week and go out there and get ready to crush it. I can see the chat is already live down there. You'd love to see it. Welcome on in, Wilson Dog. Branica already talking about the hair. Yeah, that'll be a topic of discussion here in a few minutes. Thoughts on John Ron? Love him this week. Welcome on in, Wilson. What's up, James? What's up, Branica? Lee Hodges. Intriguing name. Not sure if I'm there myself, but intriguing. Am I still considering Finau a core play? Yeah, I'm still playing him. It's not crazy. His ownership's still sub 15%. What's going on, Robbie? What's going on, Kyle? He says, am I going to dye the hair? All right, let's just have the hair conversation. So I had a conversation with a buddy of mine. I do some betting work with, throw a little bit of ideas off of that sort of thing. And he told me, he's like, hey, if Cam Smith wins, I do have an extremely large bet on Cam Smith to win this week. And I should go out there and give himself the mullet and stash to boot, right? Going back to back. I hit on him at a pretty decent number last year. I got him at 30-1. I bet him right after the Sony Open, so really early in the year there. And then this year, I got him at 40-1 about a month and a half ago. So I got him at two really juicy numbers. And if he's going to cash out in back-to-back years, well, I've got to go out there and pay homage to my boy. So I've already said that if Cam Smith wins, I will go with the mullet, full-on mullet. We won't even wear hats on the streams for like the few, at least weeks after that. And then we're going to go out there and also go with the stash. So it's going to be full on rat look. I mean, it's going to be quite a sight there for a week or two. Or on the other end, I'm going to open it up to the chat. I'll let you guys pick a player and I'll go with their hairstyle. I'll give you guys one example. This doesn't have to be what you pick, right? But Brooks with his bleached blonde hair. I shouldn't have even thrown that out there, should I? It's got to be somebody I want to win, put it that way, to be accepted as a pick. So I'll throw that out there. That's something that I'm putting on the line this week. It's a major. We'll have some fun with it. And I'm getting a haircut either way. So I guess it's just helping us pick which way we're going to do it for a week before I go out there, completely change it and look like a normal human being the week after. What else do we got down there? We got Grant down there with the Gorse, already throwing some of the Euro terms out there. I love it. Well, we're going to hear a lot about the Gorse pot bunkers this week. We're going to hear about fescue. You're going to hear fescue, long fescue quite a bit. I don't know. There's probably a million words out there. Brand will hit us up with them. Scott says Cam Young or DeChambeau. That's Cam Young for me. What's going on, Mark? Yo, Wilson, you got to chill with the messages down there, boss man. Get a haircut, you hippie. Yeah, that's the truth, though, Anthony. To be honest with you, I do got to get a haircut. Hosey says, like it up, guys. Yeah, hit that like up button on your way in. Vincent says, let's have ourselves a week. Love it. You must diet blonde. That's only if the Brooks one happens. Not if Cam Smith hits. We're not going to go that far there. Secondly, thoughts on Wyndham outright. Yeah, so I'm not a big Wyndham guy. We'll talk about him a little bit later, Scott. So we'll get back to some of the DFS questions here in a few minutes. Yeah, I'm not a huge Wyndham guy. Yeah, I figured the BK one would get some laughs. Around for the first sections up in 5 hours. Yeah, you're going to be there. You say go mullets, no open hat. I haven't gotten it yet, Paul. I have my eye out for it, though. But yeah, go mullets, right? That'd be it would be a meme. Let's put it that way. I'd win a lot of money and it'd be good for the channel, too. Hey, Luke Hopewell as well. We get to pick the player for the haircut, Jim Furyk. Yeah, we're not doing that. He's not playing, right? You can't win, right? Hey, if you pick him, that means I get to dodge a bullet, right? You vote against the bleach perm. Oh my God. Now you guys are telling me to shave my head. My brother wants that. So, okay, enough with that. Let's hop into the analysis, okay? So first off, we have our community contest. We have 64 of 100 spots filled already, which typically at this point, right, it's closer to like 40, 50. So let's go ahead. Let's fill this thing up. Let's get it the whole way to 100 spots. On there, you can have your lineups reviewed. We will be doing a week in review stream this week. Over the last few weeks, in between, honestly, just kind of got behind on my stuff and was already like at the point where I was normally putting out course breakdown stuff when I would have been doing my review stream. So, hey, we were slacking the last 2 weeks. We'll get to it. We're doing a review stream this week. So if you want your lineup reviewed, hop in there. It's a $1 entry. It's a way to play against everyone else here in the live stream, play for some bragging rights. For rounds 2, 3, and 4, we'll be doing showdown community contests and, of course, doing updates for this contest and the showdown contest and all the live streams there, too. So it's a good way to get some analysis in there and the best way to get your lineup reviewed there, too. Even if you can't make it to the review stream, right, you can always DM me and go, hey, my name is so-and-so in the community contest, DM me on Twitter, Discord, whatever the case may be, Patreon, and say, hey, can you look at my lineup from last week and let me know your thoughts, right? That's always something that you can do there as well. All right, let's talk about this golf course, though, right? It all comes down to the wind. We can look at the 2014 stuff all we want. We don't have data golf from the last 5 years, right, at Royal Liverpool. It's one of the Rota courses that we haven't been to for quite some time. But the one real thing that shapes all Open Championships would be the weather, right? And for this week, it looks like, at least for Thursday, we're probably getting a pretty calm day. Looks like maybe 15 to 20 mile an hour wind gusts. But Friday, it looks like Saturday looks a little bit dicey. And then depending on what model you're looking at, I mean, some of the other models have like Saturday, Sunday with like 30, 40 mile an hour wind gusts. I know this UKV model, even for Friday, right, it has in the 30 mile an hour when it comes to the wind gusts there. If any of those come to fruition, I mean, this place could get deadly difficult. I mean, if you look at some of this round one score stats, I should say lines around the industry, Prize Picks has them at like 70 for most, like, I would say elite tier players, right? Guys like Rory, Scotty are at like 69 strokes. But on like major sports books, they have those guys at like 69 and a half strokes. They have like guys like Cantlay at like 70 and a half. Guys like Brooks at 70 and a half strokes. Like, they're not thinking that Hoylake's going to mess around, right? So unless they're completely wrong, all of those massive books, and they're all pretty much in agreement at this point, PointsBet, Caesars, William Hill, all of those sort of books have these sort of players priced on the same kind of level. This place is going to be difficult, right? Even tomorrow, right, when we're getting, I would say, the most benign conditions of the entire week. It's not only the wind, but you're also looking at the most receptive greens. They got a lot of rain on Monday and Tuesday. The weeks leading up to the golf tournament, they've gone quite a bit of rain. So if they're going to go out there and get this golf course, it's tomorrow. And again, the Vegas lines are not set to them going out there and torching this place. So it's I expect this to be a little bit more difficult than I think some other people out there in the industry think it's going to be. And I think it's going to play maybe to like a 12 to 14 under par winning score. I forget what my exact prediction was at the beginning of the week, but as time has gone on, as we've seen the golf course, I've adjusted it to that 12 to 14 under par range. So by the way, if you have any hot takes on the winning score, I would love to hear it down in chat. I've heard anything as low as like 18 under par as a prediction for a winning score to as high as 2 over par. So now I think the guy who said 2 over par is just going a little bit overboard there with it. But I think something around like 10, maybe 12 under par is probably that sweet spot there. I love myself some Jordan L. Smith. Yeah, we'll talk about him when we get to the player pool, but ball striker, right? It's what we like to see. Brian says, when you say it's a core guy in your sheets, it's not on Patreon. Are you saying core for GPP? It's core for GPPs. I don't play much cash, Brian. Best Euros under $7,000. Well, we'll take a look at the player pool later. I don't know off the top of my head. I have a bunch in my pool. So we'll talk about them, James. If you're on the Patreon, right, you can see the guys I have down as a yes. But Marcel Seam, right, he's $5,800, right? He's technically under $7,000. It kind of depends on what you need there. Hey, you can't get into the Discord chat. Yeah, send me a message on Patreon then, bro. Minus 15. Yeah, I could see it. But even then, like, that means that the wind would die down a little bit, right? Like, if the wind is going to kick on, like, Saturday or Sunday, I don't know if they can even take it to minus 15. So, I don't know. Pick one. Matty Fitz or Shane Lowry. Fitz for me. Minus 13, 14. Yeah, so everyone's kind of in the same range, like minus 11. Thing that I think is in play that I don't think everyone's really considering, but now I think that's probably the good median winning score, is it could be like minus 3, minus 4. Right? Like, if the conditions just get really shitty over the weekend, we have no idea what that's going to look like here at this point. I mean, these plays, I mean, they're going to have a hard time breaking 73, 74. It's that kind of golf course. So it'll be fun to see. Colin Morikawa winner. Okay. I've seen crazier things happen. I'm not there myself. Ernie L's GPP winner. Oh, I don't know about that. Minus 10. Yeah, minus 10. Yeah, honestly, that makes sense. Hypothetically, if all the guys were the same price in ownership, who would be my pick? It would be John Rahm. John Rahm for sure. Send me a message on Twitter then. That's strange, Bobby. I have no idea. Let's take a look at some of this weather for Friday. So for Thursday, I would say if we're trying to find an edge, right, the morning looks a little bit easier than the afternoon, but it doesn't look that much easier. Maybe like 0.4, 0.5 shot difference. Over here for Friday, it also looks like the morning might be slightly easier than the afternoon. In general, the conditions on Friday look harder than what we had for Thursday. So I think if anything, I would kind of want to have the PM AM guys, because we know that tomorrow afternoon's really not all going to be that bad. Right? I mean, like 20-mile-an-hour wind gusts is not going to be easy, but it's not horribly difficult, right? Whereas on Friday, I know it's only at like 24-mile-an-hour wind gusts right now. What if that ramps up and it ends up being this 30 miles an hour or this 35 miles an hour that we have over in this UKV model? Then you're looking at a completely different situation, right? Where like those guys are getting absolutely hammered. So I think if you're going to play a weather edge, which I'm not playing one this week, I'm just kind of taking my guys. There's not really any waves out there, right? You just have pure tee times. They're all going off of hole number one. There's not any sort of break in the tee times too. So you can't really get cute with like only playing guys from one wave. I don't see a massive edge. I think for showdown, taking the earliest tee times for tomorrow, I think makes a lot of sense. I think for Friday, it's going to be a really good target to go out there and take some of the earliest tee times. But I don't know if for main slate, right, for your lineups, if I see any definitive edge. Now, that doesn't mean that you can't go out there and stack lineups. It doesn't mean you can't go out there and take maybe 20, 25% of your lineups and stack them in both directions, right? Maybe take a lot of guys that are going off early tomorrow. Maybe take a bunch of lineups with guys that are going off late tomorrow and trying to run it in that direction. But it's not any sort of definitive edge, right? Where you're going out there and I think you're gaining a bunch of strokes to the field. That's what I'll say about it. You can take a gamble on it. I'm choosing not to do it this week, but I don't think you'd be crazy for doing so. Let me just say that. Like, you're not in Scotland, you're still over there. The UK conditions can change, like that, right, in an instant out there. And there's some of the more harsh conditions that we have. So if there's going to be an edge, a lot of times it will be like a stroke and a half, a 2-stroke difference, and not just like a half a stroke difference like you see at some of these PGA Tour stops. Let's see. Stenson for the win. I hope he plays well. I don't know if he's going to win. I hope he makes the cut and finishes top 25. Roman says, Luke, greetings, bud. How do you feel about the 3-ball between Scotty, Fleetwood, and Scott? So you like Fleetwood for that. So yeah, it's just the 1-round 3-ball. He's plus 200. I like the odds there. So you have a pretty standard one there, right? It's plus 100, 200, 300. Scott, I don't want to say you completely can throw out, but I still wouldn't even bet him at plus 300. And then Scotty plus 100, right? You're not getting enough value. So yeah, if I was going to choose one, it would be Fleetwood. He's also in form, right? So a lot of times those 3-balls, a lot of the sharper bettors would just try and find some of the hot players and ride that hot hand. And at plus 200 odds, that feels about right. I mean, you're probably still paying some juice to the book, right? Let's be honest, but I guess it works out. Thoughts on Woodland? I think he's a decent play this week. I don't think he's outrageously good in terms of a fit, but I like the fact that he's used to hitting stingers. I like the fact that he is more than willing to lay up. We've seen that at other short positional golf courses, right? He still gains off the tee there. And I don't know. He's been around. He's a major champion, right? You got to give him some credit for that too. I like him this week. I'm playing him this week, right? If that gives you an idea. So yeah, Gary Woodland, he checks a few boxes for me. Right? I know I talked up Minwoo Lee, right? Value play this week. A lot of you guys probably saw that. But like Joaquin Niemann, same thing. He's known for hitting stingers, right? Flagging that golf ball down. I don't know. I'm playing a narrative this week. I guess we'll just get into it now. It's a perfect segue. I think it's going to play hard. I think it's going to play very difficult for at least a round or two over the weekend. Tomorrow, maybe not so much. You might see like a 65. I think a -6 round on this golf course would probably be your ceiling. And I think if you're going to see it, you're going to see it tomorrow. But I don't think it's going to be a common occurrence, right, by any means. I think you're probably going to see a lot of rounds where the best score is like a 66 or 67, something like that, right? Like 4 or 5 under par. That being said, over the weekend, if the forecast turns or we get some typical weather, right, for this time of the year over there in England, we might get a really nasty day or two of golf. And the players that you won on that kind of day are the players that are used to hitting irons low, right? And frankly, not a lot of people know who those guys are, right? So a lot of I think there's an edge for DFS this week, particularly in like high stakes single entry kind of contests. There are guys that I just don't want to give away. Like I've talked about a few there. Woodland, I guess. Give you one more. Taylor Gooch, right? Went over there to Oklahoma State. If you saw some of the recent live events, when it's gotten windy out, players have literally talked about how Taylor Gooch has a tangible advantage over the rest of the field because of how low he hits the ball. I don't know how many more I'm going to get. They're on my player poll on Patreon, right? But I gotta realize I'm playing against you guys in single entries, that kind of stuff, right? My single entry and higher dollar lineups are just littered with those kind of players, guys that I know can manipulate their ball flight. And if this place gets really scary over the weekend, that can get the job done in those kind of conditions. So that's one of my main narratives. That's where I make a lot of my decision points this week. And a lot of it too is like players that can play well in the wind, like they've just shown it in the past, or that for one reason or another, I would expect to play well in the wind, right? Maybe if they don't have the track record yet, those are the kind of plays that I'm getting to make tiebreakers, right? It's not where I'm, making the end all be all, right? We're still using projections, modeling, all that sort of fun stuff. But when you're trying to really get narrowed down on it, that's why I like a guy like Woodland for sure. Yeah, let's see some carnage. That's what I'm hoping for, man. Maybe it's just the golf purist in me, but yeah, hoping for it for sure. Is it worth noting waking up at 3 a.m. to watch? Yeah, you're waking up at 3. I'm going to wake up at 1:30. You're saying, is it worth? Yeah, if you're waking up at 3, for sure. I'm waking up at 1:30. So I'm waking up even earlier. I'll be finalizing a lineup or two after we get off stream here, and then going right to bed. What do I think the round 1 leader will be? -6. If I had to guess, Roman, I think somebody shoots a 65. I think it's going to be an elite tier player. It's going to be like a Rory, a Scotty, maybe it'll be like a Rahm, a Brooks, something like that. If you're on your best stuff and you can hit these tiny fairways, which they're like 18 yards wide, they're going to be some of the hardest fairways to hit of the entire year, particularly because I heard from a few players today, quotes saying that they saw the fairways bouncing out, right? They were relatively firm, even after the rain that they were getting. It's going to be tough. But if you can somehow get dialed in off the tee like that and hit fairways and hit the ball a long way, you take it to 6 under par. But that's going to be real tough. I can't play him after the 82-85, Nick. That seems like a tough mental break. He's going to be your core Woodland. I could see it. I'm not making him a core play, but if you're going to take a stance, right, and you're going after guys that are good in the wind, he fits that. Hideki thoughts. I like him this week. He's got the WD risk. Right, he had the whole video of him like twerking on the range, going out there and trying to get, I guess, stretched out there at some point during the Monday practice round. But yeah, he's actually been a lot better than most people I think expect of late. Like I know he had the miscut with like T13, T32 at the U.S. Open. Like he hasn't been absolute shit. Like no top 10s. He's not cracked that yet for whatever reason. But yeah, it's seemingly a really good golf course for him. Like difficult tracks where you get tested across the board, or where Hideki Matsuyama kind of just pops out of nowhere. Only defenses the wind, not at all, Bobby. This is a really well thought out golf course, well designed golf course. When Tiger won, he won by like, I think it was him, Chris DeMarco. He had like -18. DeMarco had like -16. The rest of the field was like at 12 under par. And then when Rory won, it rained for like all 3 days, and the guys didn't even take the place apart. So I think it's got a lot more defense than what you expect. You have the long rough on every hole, fescue, there's pot bunkers on every hole that are literally like a shot and a half penalty. You have, you have no water, right? I guess that's the main thing, right? But all of the around the green shots, if you miss a green and they're not large greens, you're getting screwed too. So no, it's much more than just that, I would say. AM, PM still viable? Yeah. I'm playing everyone, right? So I know I just said, right, PM, AM looks like it might be a little bit better. That's only to break ties. I'm still playing plenty of guys in the morning. And remember, it's no waves, right? No waves. Keegan for the win. I could see it. Hey, if he gets dialed in off the tee, like I can always go low. Do I use the same lineup for all my single entries? No, I do not. The immaculate iron play of Colin Morikawa. I can see it. You guys are all trying to talk me into Colin. I can't play him though. I don't know. I have to see something, and I haven't seen it of late. Maybe I'm blind. Maybe I'm just not looking at the right spots. You said that this course favors a draw. Who are the best drivers given that? Good question. So if you're looking for notable drawers of the golf ball, Rory, pretty notable drawer of the golf ball. Xander, he moves it from right to left, but I feel like with his irons, he moves it from left to right. So I don't know if he's like a true draw kind of guy. There's not many. A lot of guys that are moving it the other way. Matty Fitz is a drawer. Tommy Fleetwood hits a draw. I believe Shane Lowry hits a draw. A lot of the Euros, right? Interesting. Maybe it's because they're playing in the wind and they were doing it growing up. That wouldn't surprise me. Yeah, not a lot of draws. Maybe Tony Finau. Nah, he hits fades. Well, he does both, so I don't think you could say anything. And then Taylor Gooch hits a lot of draws. Those would be the players that stand out to me. I'm sure there are more that maybe I'm just not thinking of right now, but a majority of these top end players, elite tier guys, hit a fade. Majority of them, which is why I think maybe your winner comes from the mid tier this week, or maybe even like some of the long shot range, because a lot of the like pure draw players are maybe not always elite tier guys, but are poppers. And I think someone could pop this week. I don't know. I bet a lot of top tier guys, but I've got a little sinking feeling that we might see a little surprise this week. Who's your favorite winner this week? That's definitely John Rahm. John Rahm. Number 2 would be Brooks Koepka. I just said I thought maybe someone from behind the pack can win. I think that's true, but right, if someone up top's going to win, I think it's a big game hunter that has the mental fortitude to deal with some tough conditions over the weekend. You're just going to play through. This guy's throwing all the golf terms down there. I love it. I got to say, Brant was hyping up my boy John Rahm earlier. He's I'm feeling good about John Rahm here. Daily thoughts. How many birdies do I think he'll drop? Not many. 0 or 1, probably. He's dealing with a hip issue. He's my boy John Daly. Love the guy. Absolute treasure for the golf community. But he's dealing with a little bit of a injury right now. Right? He's not playing much golf. Like I can't imagine it's very good. Damn it, it's Bobby Bot. Probably way too down. What are you saying? How many birdies do I think will drop? Yeah, probably only like 1 or 2, maybe most. Do I think Bryson tries driving over the pot bunkers? Yeah, I think he's going to try it, Brian. I mean, or at least that he's tried during the week. I have heard, though, that it's real cool out there. It's like 59 degrees. It's also windy on a lot of the longer holes into, for whatever reason. And a lot of the guys that were trying to go over the pot bunkers, even like elite tier distance guys, weren't getting over. So I feel like if anyone can get over, it's Bryson. But I was hearing that guys were having trouble with that. Like even like a Rory was like having trouble getting over some because they moved a lot of the bunkers back for this year's Open. They removed a par 5 to a difficult par 4, Bobby. Yeah, it's a completely different course, and it was already hard to begin with. Yeah, for sure. The out of bounds will be in play. Yeah, it'll be hit a lot, Graham. I don't think every player is going to hit an out of bounds, but I think in terms of double bogeys, like you're probably going to see like 0.25 doubles per round, right? Just because of that out of bounds there. And they made the out of bounds on 18 more prominent. They made the out of bounds on 3 a little bit more prominent too. So like on top of changing the par of one hole, on top of making 17 the really difficult par 3 right there, the second to last hole, and the out of bounds, they're trying to make this place more difficult than it was before. And it was already actually pretty hard. If you're playing cash, who are the lowest salary golfers? Probably like 6,400. Like there are a few guys in the low 6s that are mispriced that are like normally $7,000 golfers. So like probably one of those guys. And they'd have to be one of the mispriced players, right? Not just like anybody down there at the bottom of the 6. You backed Ricky and Brooks for the win. Love it. I'm with you on those two. And Adam Scott and Gooch. I like the Gooch one. Adam Scott one, Jack, it feels like Adam Scott hasn't played well at a difficult course in a while. Right, maybe that's just recency bias for me. So I'm not there on Adam Scott. That was my narrative against him. But again, maybe it's recency bias. But I love the other 3. I mean, and honestly, Adam Scott, right, an experienced veteran at this type of golf course, he can do crazier things. So I like it. Favorite low-owned showdown play. If you're going to play showdown, you want somebody going off early, right? So if you're looking for low-owned, now these aren't showdown ownership projections. So don't get too confused on that. But they're probably going to correlate pretty well. Probably Matty Fitz. Jordan Spieth, maybe. Jordan Spieth's probably going to be in the single digits. I imagine Matty Fitz as well would be single digit owned for some of those showdown contests. Probably one of those two, right? An early guy going off. Can I get down with the X-Man this week? I'm not there, Karoom, but I could definitely play him, right? If I had more room in my player pools, let's say I was playing 300 lineups rather than 150, I'd probably have Xander. So yeah, I could play him. Maybe I'll probably get some exposure for round 2 showdown. That'll probably be how I get my exposure. But yeah, I think he's a decent play. He won the Genesis Scottish last year. So that really, and then his second place at the Open like 4 years ago shows me that he has more than enough fit at this course to get it done. So yeah, our ball strikers in play. Yes, they're always in play. That's definitely a bit by you, Sam. Thoughts on him this week? I think he's a super low-end flyer, Tanner. I don't see any semblance of form or any semblance of the old Sun JM for whatever reason. But if you're going to play him in like 7 to 10% of lineups, crazier things you could do. Thoughts on Harman hitting his irons well? Yeah, he's gaining over a stroke per round, right? If we take a look at the last 12 measured rounds, I believe that was on last count. Where are you at? Yeah, good old Hobbit Ryan Harman, 1.2 strokes per round with the iron play. Yeah, I'm playing him this week. He's played well at Open Championships. If we take a look at the event history, you'll see what I'm talking about. Let's see. T6, T19, and then 3 missed cuts. Okay, that's not great, but the last 2 have been good, right? T6, T19 finish. Yeah, I'll be playing them. That's for sure. It makes sense for me, especially with the iron play, right? 113 watching, 28 likes. Step it up. You heard the man. Get down there, smash that like button for me, boys. Let's go out there and have ourselves a week. Who are some good locks? Oh boy, yeah, I'm not locking anybody, but I don't know. Brooks at a major seems like a good bet. Is there are there any stats on how much salary is used for the top lineup in a big GPP? So it's not something that I track. It's not something that I know any database tracks, but on our weekend review streams, we often look at it, and people are spending within $200 of the max almost every single time. There was only one GPP winner that I can remember over the last 3 months that left anything more than $200 on the table. So if you're looking at actually winning the large field GPPs, it's almost always right there within 200 of the max. But if you're talking about actual optimal lineups, that is tracked. That is something that quite a few people are tracking week to week, but it's not how do I put it the right way? It's not like that valuable, I feel like, because no one's entering those lineups. Like they're leaving like $4,000 on the table, but those are never taking down GPPs. So yeah, you're on the right track looking up for the ones that actually are winning the large field GPPs. They're usually only leaving like 100 or 200 on the table. I'm not going to tell you leaving 500 is too much, but you don't need to leave that much. You don't see it very often. What's up, Logan? What's going on, Logan Gordon? Thoughts on Neiman? Love Neiman this week. What I like about him is the ball flight manipulation, right? Really good low ball hitter. The pin on 3 is going to bait players, and some are going to hit a ball OB. Oh boy, give me the carnage. I haven't taken a look at it, Martin. At least I can't remember the whole 3-pin location. That sounds like fun. You've got 45% Adam Scott. That seems aggressive, but it's a good stand. It's definitely a leverage to the field, that's for sure. Am I playing Rahm as a core pivot from Scheffler or Rory simply because you prefer his chances? I took him before I was really considering ownership, right? I put that video out on Monday, Wyatt. I prefer him over the 2. He's honestly, I feel like there's so much recency bias when it comes to this golf game, right? Obviously, Rory's coming in off the win, was able to take advantage of that last week, but he's far from a demigod now, right? Golf's an extremely variant sport. Guys go on runs. That it's extreme. There's a lot of ebbs and flows, right? When it comes to golf, right? Lots of ups and downs and whatnot. I like Rahm because long term, he's the better player than Scheffler and Rory McIlroy. He is. He's the better, more consistent player. He's won the more impressive events over the threesome this year, right? Tell me I'm wrong. Look at their wins, right? He has the much more impressive resume this year. So yeah, I just like his chances, man. And I think that's kind of a hot take for some people out there. But my counter argument would be that you're looking at too much of a recent sample. You're letting that recency bias get to you. So yeah, I think he's just a better player. And frankly, the ownership, the price tag difference, right, is what I think makes him one of the best plays on the slate. Why I'm using him as a core play for that example. Thoughts on Patrick Reed? I always like him at a major championship. The ownership's always there too, I have to say, right? He's never going to be low owned at these major championships. But yeah, I play him almost every time. Thoughts on Bjork? Feel like he's projected, the ownership is projected too high for him. I think I have him at like 5-6%. I think he'll come in around that point because he's made like every cut that he's played in. Did he make the cut last week? I feel like he did, right? He didn't even miss the cut last week, if memory serves me correctly. He didn't play all that well. Yeah, he finished T35. He's 15 of 15 on cuts this year. Some people are going to play him. I can almost assure you of that, but not enough. Like comparatively, I don't have him as like chalk compared to the guys around him. I'm playing him, D Young. So I'm taking him. Thoughts on playing cash for golf? I don't play cash. I'm not a huge fan of it. Unless there's a huge edge to be had, and I don't see it this week. Going to be watching the reactions on 17. They need to have a completely dedicated broadcast for 17. We need to have players mic'd up, right, that are taking some sort of wireless transceiver on that tee box and to lend us in the head. I need that. We need to inject that into the broadcast. It's going to be a fun hole. I don't know. I can't wait till the first guy gets there. It's going to take a while, right? Because they're all starting on hole 1. Any take on Bryson? I worry about the driving, but he's a smart guy. Maybe he'll lay up off the tee like he knows that he can, and it'll take it apart. Why am I fading Haddon? Because he's like 17% owned. I did a whole video on it, Anthony. So if you want to watch the video, you can get my full take on it. But yeah, he's the 3rd highest owned player on the slate. That's why. Terrell, yeah, it's ownership for me, Carl. Good play. Right? Actually, on my fades video, I talked him up. I told you guys why you should play Terrell, right? Before I went out there and tore him down afterwards. But he's coming in with form, right? He was like number 6 in recent form, number 4 in my total model ranking, right? So it's not like he's a horrible play, right? I prefaced the fade with that earlier, but he's literally the 4th. Actually, sorry, he's Terrell specifically is the 4th highest owned player on the slate, and Tommy Fleetwood's the 3rd highest owned player on the slate. Who are the 2 higher owned players? Scotty Scheffler and Rory McIlroy. Why? Because they deserve that ownership. Do Haddon and Fleetwood deserve that kind of ownership? Hell no. Fuck to the no, right? Tell me one time they've won a big time event. I'll wait. Crickets, right? This year for Haddon, at least, right? In the past, he's won a few big time events, albeit when they weren't elevated fields, though, right? People will be like, oh, he won the API. That's an elevated field. Wasn't elevated when Terrell Haddon won it, right? Like there's levels to this game, and people are treating Haddon and Fleetwood, both of those players specifically, like they're demigods when they're not. I like Rosner at $5,800. Really cheap mark and better talent than the price tag, right? So you're saying Brooks and Bryson and Cam Smith and DJ, throw their projection down in chat, Logan, because I don't have it up right now, or else we'll get to props here in about 20 minutes. Reed is a no-go for you? Okay. Completely fading Rory. I'm with you on fading Rory. The Reed is a no-go for you. Hey, if that's a personal decision, that's on you, but I like him here for the record. Graham says, any Corey Connors love, not at that ownership. I think he's getting some late steam. He's looking a little chalky to me. Thanks, man. Was looking at replacing Haddon with Fitz, or would you recommend somebody else? You could, if you have the salary, you could go up to like a Spieth. You could go up to a Fowler. Like, you know, Fowler's lower owned, which is just wild to me than those other 2 players. So I would go that way if you can. If not, I think a Fitz makes sense, right? If you have the $100 to go up to him, or maybe even going cheaper. Like you could go down, right, and spend up at another spot. Like if you want to take Shane Lowry instead, like Lowry, I think, I mean, the form's not it's not as good, right, as what you have with some of those other players, but like he's still gaining 1.6 strokes per round, right? I know they're gaining like 2.3, 2.5 strokes per round, but Lowry's also won an Open Championship before, right? Like that matters, right? When you're evaluating these players, maybe go to Shane Lowry. Yeah, like I don't want to diss those 2 players, right? But like their ownership is like just bonkers to me. Like they're not Rory and Scotty. That's not a hot take. Padraig and Henley. I think Padraig's like an okay play. He's playing well at least, right? Up until the last round last week, he held it together. And who's the other one you had? You said Russell Henley. I think I like Henley a little bit more. Henley, because of the driving accuracy. If this course ends up being all about the driving, right, being about going out there and hitting fairways that are extremely narrow, then Russell Henley has a huge advantage, right? He's number 1 on tour in driving accuracy. So I like the fact that he has a specialized skill set, something that he can leverage versus pretty much the rest of the world, right? Given how good he is at hitting fairways. So yeah, I like Henley. Padraig, I'm very lukewarm on. You're playing 18 lineups for DraftKings, YOLO going for $1 million. Hey, if you're willing to throw that kind of shot out there, you're playing for the first place. Have some fun with it, Mark. Take some bold stands. I like it. Connors, Day, or Gooch? Gooch for me. Considering ownership, that sort of thing, right? Gooch. Day, I think, is a pretty decent play too. Any Straka love seems like a good fit. No love for me. The good fit part, I guess I just don't see it, but I mean, let's look at the last 36 rounds. Let's at least look at the stats, right? I could just be blind to it. It's just not something that came to mind right away. So over his last 36, pretty good approach play, right? That fits pretty much any course. And then right about a neutral with everything else. So the thing I'd say I worry about with Sepp is that I know he's Polish and whatnot, right? But he's not used to playing a link-style golf course. So I kind of worry about his ability to translate and adjust to that because it's a completely different style. And I guess this is another narrative that I should have thrown out there, but my player pool is also filtered through guys that I know that can handle link style conditions. There are plenty up and coming prospects on the PGA Tour. And just to give you an example, like a Davis Riley, right, that has played some pretty good golf of late, right? Actually added a tour win, right, at the team event over there with his boy Nick Hardy, right, there at $7,000. The issue I have with Davis Riley is this guy has never shown it on link style golf before, right? I know what his first experience was last week over there at the Genesis, or I don't know if he played the year before that, but he doesn't have that much experience. Whereas you have a lot of guys around him that are either veterans on the PGA Tour that do have that experience, or European Tour players that are playing these courses week in and week out. So I think a lot of people are discounting that fact that playing links golf is just so much different than going out there and playing on a Parkland American style golf course. And you're going to see that reflected with the leaderboard. I think by the end of the week, your top 10, you're going to have a lot of these studs, right, up here in the 10 and 9K range. I'd say at least half of them are probably going to be your 9 and 10K range players. Then the other half, I would expect to probably either be veterans that have played a lot of major championship golf, or on the flip side, some random Euros, right? The guys that have played link style golf and that had a ceiling week, right? Now, I don't think those guys are going to win the golf tournament, but I do think their ceiling is getting into that top 5, top 10, which is what we're looking for in GPPs. So I'm just, I'm taking a narrative this week where I'm trying to think of what I think that top 10 is going to look like at the end of the week and trying to get as many of those types of players in my player pool as possible, right? That's how I'm attacking it this week. And that's what I'm expecting to see essentially. Any crazy weather? I think Saturday, Sunday, you might see it, Ryan. But for the first 2 days, Friday looks a little dicey, right? Those are, I'd say, the most accurate weather forecasts right now. But yeah, it doesn't look too crazy. I mean, 25, 30 mile an hour winds on Friday might blow these guys off the course, right? They might have a 2.5, 3 over par scoring average. So we'll have to see. I don't know. We haven't played here in a while, Ryan. It could be carnage. Who knows? It could be easy for all we know, for goodness sakes, right? I'll throw that out there too. Mark says, who are your favorite 2 5K plays? So Marcel Seam's number one. Like Marcel Seam there. Henrik 6,200, so he doesn't count. Let's throw, I don't have many guys down here I'm playing. It would be Rosner. Rosner there at 5,800 as well. He's another Euro Tour player. We just talked about what I think the importance is of taking guys that have the experience on a link style golf course. And he played pretty decently last week on approach. He just could not make a putt for his life. So, yeah, I don't know if that's going to change. Rosner doesn't make many putts to begin with, but it would be those two. Those are 2 guys that I'm playing this week. Let's see. Exactly. Han and Fleetwood. Yeah, exactly. Like, and you're comparing them to like the Spieths of the world, right? And like Matty Fitz, who I think is a better player. Morikawa's lower owned, like DJ, Shane Lowry. Like, if they were all equal ownership, I would for sure play Haddon and Fleetwood. Like, if that was the question, for sure. But unfortunately, we can't do that, right? So we gotta pivot a little bit. Matt Wallace, I like Matt Wallace too, Royal. I'm there with you. Let's keep it on the down low though, right? So we don't get a bunch of steam on our boy. I have no idea what he's saying. You're saying, that's for the projections before. I was like, wait, what are you saying there? Okay. So you're saying Bryson Brooks are at 8, and then you're saying whatever the other combo was. Let's see. It was Cam Smith and DJ. So those combos, I feel like they're a little bit tough, right? Like, I would probably like lean over, if anything, on those 2 combos because I like those players this week. But that's tough. Like the 8.5 for Cam Smith and DJ, like I'd much prefer the first combination, right, at 8, because you do get that push equity. Thoughts on Denny to pivot to somebody like a Henley? I like Henley more than Denny, but both are kind of chalky, right? Let me check my ownership there on Denny McCarthy, because I thought I had some ownership there too. Or I should say, sorry, on Henley. So Denny McCarthy, I've got 10.2%. Russell Henley, I've got 7.3. So if you're looking at the ownership between the two and trying to like make a pivot, I don't think you need to. They're close enough in ownership, or like just take your guy that you like a little bit more, right? Like the guy that whoever you were taking first is probably the guy I would stick with. DJ, thoughts? How's he been playing? He's been very average on the Live Tour. Like he's been in contention a few times, but no wins over his last few starts. But I still like him this week. I think he's got upside at this sort of golf tournament. He plays well at nasty conditions. He's experienced, right? He's one of those veterans that has played links golf before and has played it well before. Has a decent record at the Open Championship too. So yeah, I'm playing DJ. I think he's got decent upside here. Only doing a free max. Are you crazy for locking in all 3 lineups? So just you're saying Fox in all 3 lineups. Just think your salary's too good. I mean, you're not crazy, right? I mean, if that's your only exposure for the weekend, you want to send it on one player. I'm not going to talk you off of that, Brian. But personally, right, I would never do that. I'd probably just play him in one lineup because 33% exposure, right, on somebody like Fox that's going to be like 10% owned is still 3x the field, right? That's still way leveraged to everyone else out there. So I don't know if I'd be pushing that one. Thoughts on Kirk at 7K flat? I don't hate it because he's played well in windy conditions like down there, for the Honda Classic. So I kind of like it. Thoughts on Olsen, Hogard, and Bjork? I like Bjork the most of those 3. Hogard, Nico Hogard is who I'm assuming you're talking about. I think both are in this field. Maybe Rasmus isn't. I know Nico is. I like Bjork the most, second Hogard if it's Nico, and then third Olsen. Mullet mode. Yeah, my brother wants to see the mullet. We got to get Cam Smith to win. And by the way, guys, still haven't seen any other ideas about the hair thing. We could just leave it at the Cam Smith one if you guys want. But if you have any ideas for the player, if they end up winning the Open, I'll emulate their haircut. I'm all ears for it, right? And make it somebody that can actually win the Open, right? You don't want to waste your chance out there. Bryson, Minwoo, or Gooch? So you're in a tier-styled contest. I would go Minwoo, but I do like Gooch there too. Right? It's a close second. Do we see everything on the chart with the $10 a month? You do. Everything that's blacked out, for sure. Thought process on Hovland. So I don't love Hovland at courses where there's a lot of shaved off areas, where there's a lot of around the green shots where you have to hit little chippy, clippy shots, because where he's had a lot of his success in major championships have been in courses with real deep rough, right? Like Oak Hill, for example, where all the greens are surrounded by that 4 to 6 inch rough. Those shots are very predictable. You have the very similar technique for gouging out of them, right, and hitting around the green shots. There's not as much of a skill gap on those kind of shots as what you'll see on a fairway grass. I can just tell you, as somebody from South Florida, where every golf course has shaved off fairway areas, it makes you a much, much better player around the green. You have a much more well-rounded repertoire of shots around the green as compared to players from pretty much any other part of the country. So when you get to a links course, or maybe even just an American style course that has the shaved off areas around the green, it's a different ball game. It's why at Waste Management, Hovland has never done anything. Right? It's all the shaved off areas. The guy just can't get it done there at that golf tournament. And I think that's always going to be the case until we can fix that, right? I used to say that Hovland could never get it done in a big field because of his around the green play. Well, he figured it out at courses with rough, right? Well, now Hovland has got to figure it out off of the fairway cut, right? He's got to figure out how to hit some chip shots. So I haven't seen it. And until I see it on this type of grass, I'm going to fade him. Thoughts on Ramsey? I like the form. Good Euro Tour player, good flyer play, low ownership, no complaints. Does Alex Fitzpatrick make the cut? I don't think so. Probably not. It'd be a good story, though, especially if him and Fitzy got matched up together. Is it a good idea to pick the top Europeans over Americans to make the cut parlay? So you're saying like there's more Euros that make the cut than Americans? I'm kind of confused with the prop there, Gust. So you'll have to clarify that one. Robert McIntyre and Brian Harman. I'm a fan of Brian Harman, so I like the approach stats, and I like his Open Championship stuff the last 2 years. Robert McIntyre, I think, is just a little chalky, so kind of depends on the contest you're in. If you're in a single entry cash, I'm okay with McIntyre. If you're in a large field GPP, I'd probably pivot elsewhere. Thoughts on Thigala and Morikawa? Thigala way unowned. So normally he's super chalky. This week I've got him as like one of the lower owned guys in this range, which is something we never see. I'm playing him. He's a damn good player, damn talented player that we usually never get at low ownership. And if we're getting a chance, I'm taking him. Thoughts on Jordan Smith? Love the ball striking. I'm playing him. Thoughts on love chipping with a pitching sand or lob wedge? Yeah, you've got to. It's not even just that. Like here in Florida, like you got to become real good at flop shots, right? Like we have those shaved off fairway areas and then real soft greens, right? So if you can learn how to hit a good flop shot, it'll stop relatively soon for you. So like you learn how to manipulate the flight of the ball, right? Either hit the ball high, maybe play the ball along the ground, which you'll need to do for quite a few shots down here too. I think guys like Patrick Reed, Justin Thomas, Ricky Fowler, Jordan Spieth, half the reason why they're so good around the green is because they grew up in an area where you have golf courses that test you around the green like that, right? A lot of the California kids or a lot of the Northeastern kids or even Midwestern golfers, right, that are growing up don't have that experience and are usually really shitty around the green. Any thoughts on Matthew Jordan home course and says he plays a lot of golf here? I've seen that go both ways, right? Sometimes it helps a guy, sometimes it hurts him. I think with Matthew Jordan, right, if you're going to play a narrative, it makes sense with a cheap guy because he's only going to be in like 5 to 7% of your laps, right? Maybe 10% if you're getting frisky about it, which is a much smaller gamble than going out there and using somebody like a stud with a narrative, right? Where it might be like half your lineups. So I think you could take a shot on him. I could see it. My favorite 8K range guys, let's see. I'll give you a couple, right? So I like Finau, of course. He's probably the guy I'm taking in most of my lineups in that range. JT, because it's JT, and he's underpriced. I'm that sucker that'll continue to play him. And then Max Homa. I think he's being slept on. Tom Kim, not a bad fit. He's played well at league-style courses. Guys I slightly prefer, though. So good play, but not great play for my book. Is there any value with a Joel? Is Joel Damon? I don't think he's in the field. Is he? Is there some other Joel? I don't. You're gonna have to let me know who you're talking about. I have no idea who you're talking about. For example, parlay of Fleetwood, Hatton, Rory. Oh, so you're saying you're trying to find like some studs to take for a make the cut parlay? Yeah, I'd probably go the Euros. Like if you're just trying to find a narrative for that parlay card, yeah, I'd rather the Euros, honestly. Thoughts on Langesk and Grace? Langesk, very middling, very like lukewarm kind of play. Like he's the kind of guy who'll make you a cut, and that's probably about it. Brendan Grace I actually like a little bit more. When he's played well on the Live Tour, he's gone into contention. He's played really, really well. So, and the thing about Grace is we know he can also flight his golf ball. He's infamous for hitting some of the lowest drives on all the PGA Tour. So you might want to check him out. Is there any value with a Bjork? Yes, I like Bjork. Thoughts on Ferguson? So my boy Ewan, who it looks literally the same as Ricky Fowler. I think the ownership's the one thing that's kind of scaring me with Ferguson. So because he played well before pricing came out, right? And he's only $6,100. He's like 5 to 7% owned, right? Depending on the contest that you're in. That's kind of worrisome, but it's not like disgusting chalk. So I think he's a decent play. I think the ownership's kind of there too, but it's not crazy. It's not egregious. Pick one, Finau or Gooch. Finau for sure. Yeah, definitely Tony Finau. All right, let's do some lineup construction stuff. We went through a lot of questions, and then we're going to wrap it up with some prop talk. I did a whole video on props, so we're probably going to keep it pretty brief here, but definitely we'll touch on any prop questions that you've got, and we'll go through some of the field averages, which I know will be helpful for some of you guys out there. So in terms of lineup construction, well, first off, before you hop on out of here, this is it for some of you guys on the live stream. Smash that like button on the way out. Best of luck with your lineups this week. And stop on by for the showdown streams this weekend. But in terms of lineup construction, this is where all the DFS hardos get down. This is where you make your money this week, right? Going out there and actually putting together lineups, which is way more difficult than even picking the players themselves. I think if you're in a large field GPP, and let's say your lineup, maybe your player pool is a little bit more chalky than what I have. Let's say that maybe you like the Rorys or the Scotties. Let's say you want to go out there and you really like Fleetwood or Hatton, right? And you have a lot of lineups that are maybe starting with like a Rory, and then your second man in is somebody like a Terrell Hatton. Well, let me give you guys a few outs, right? Because I know some of you guys out there are going to have lineups that you want to start this way, right? So if you're going to try and take some chalk and you're still playing in a contest like this that has 140,000 entries, you're going to have to get thinking about ownership, right? You're going to have to try and finagle a few things to first off, make sure that you're differentiated, but second off, make sure that you can go out there and not duplicate yourself. Right? That's the main thing. When there's 140,000 entries, it is real easy to go out there and duplicate yourself. So for our third man in, you're probably thinking something here in the top of the sevens, but I would challenge you to actually get a little bit more aggressive with this kind of lineup. Go into the eights and take a super low owned player. That kind of guy for me would be a Sungjae Im, right? Sungjae Im is like sub 4% owned. You're first off putting your average salary a little bit lower, which is going to force us to a few more pivots, right? It's going to force us to maybe even taking a 5K golfer in this kind of build. So let's throw a Sungjae in there. Let's throw a pivot here in like the bottom of the sixes. Let's find like a real greasy pivot, like a Matt Wallace, right? I know we mentioned him a little bit earlier, right, as a potential flyer, but at $6,000, he's the exact kind of guy I'd consider. He's a ball striker that plays a lot of golf on the DP World Tour, or at least used to play a lot of golf on the DP World Tour, and actually has a win this season, which a lot of people seemingly just kind of forget about, right? We throw him in there. We're back up to $7,200 remaining, and all of a sudden, right, we started with a really chalky build with a Rory McIlroy and a Terrell Hatton. We mixed in a Sungjae Im and a Matt Wallace. And first off, we have like 3 studs in this lineup, which you got to kind of like, right? We have a lot of top end value, and we're more than differentiated. For our last 2 spots, even if we want to take some chalk, like you can get away with it. Throw Brian Harman in there if you want. He's like 10% owned. You could probably even take a Alex Noren if you wanted to and round out this lineup. If you wanted to find a little bit more separation in terms of, duplicates, or trying to maybe even leverage the field a little bit, maybe leave a little bit of salary on the table and throw into Louis Oosthuizen, or even like a Phil Mickelson for that example, right? So like there are plenty of ways to differentiate yourself. Just because I'm not playing Rory, just because I'm not playing somebody like a Fleetwood or a Hatton this week, doesn't mean that you don't have to, right? There are ways to handle playing a lot of chalk. I prefer not to have to do that. I prefer to go out there, take pivots pretty much across the board, because I know golf is a volatile, crazy hard sport to predict. And I keep that in mind when I'm going out there and watching and trying to build lineups for the sport. So we'll leave it at that. If I was playing cash, I don't know. I would probably try and lock in like some of these like just egregiously priced players. So I know I mentioned it off the beginning that there were guys that are just like shouldn't be priced where they are. Taylor Moore sticks out as one of those players. Let's see. Matt Wallace was one of them, but I don't know if he's as mispriced as some of the others. And then Rosner. What was Rosner? What, $5,800? If I was playing in cash, the top end of the board, I think, is up to negotiation, right? Whether you want to take like a Rory or a Scotty Scheffler, whether you want to be a little bit more balanced and take a bunch of like 9K golfers. But I think the part that I would make sure to do in all of my cash laps, and again, I'm not doing it this week, right? So don't take this as like my exposure or anything. I would start it with a bunch of like just these mispriced super cheap players, because it buys you so much more availability up top. You can fit in an extra stud if you need to, which in cash is going to be huge, right? You're only trying to beat half the field. Being able to take somebody that you can almost cash for another top 10 is going to be a really big deal. So that's how I would handle cash this week. But yeah, not my favorite kind of contest to play, if I'm being frank. You have a top 10 with I'm not sure what an ACA is, honestly. Scheffler, Brooks, Fleetwood, and Morikawa. I'm assuming that's some sort of like parlay, right, between those 4 players. I like it if that's a parlay. Worried about Brooks in the Cantlay pairing? Not at all. Brooks ain't going to let it get to him. At least he better not, right? Player pool size, thoughts for 6 lineups in Classics. If we're playing 6 lineups, 10 people, maybe 11 players in my player pool, I'd keep it real tight. Last man in, Power or Woodland. That it would be Woodland for me. Power has a little bit of an injury concern going on right now, so I kind of worry about that. Think it'll be slow going for the field with all the showers that are forecasted. Let me take a look. Did they add those to the forecast? That would be great, honestly. I hope it plays hard tomorrow, because I bet against a lot of players. Let's see. Any showers tomorrow? So you're talking more like towards the weekend, like Friday, Saturday, Sunday. Yeah, it'll definitely be rainy towards the end of the event. But I think even tomorrow, just getting used to this kind of golf course, I think you're going to see some doubles. You want to go to bed now, but don't know how you'd get any sleep. Yeah, it's going to be tough, Christian. I don't know. I'm honestly just going to try and rest my eyes if I can for the 4 or 5 hours, wake up at 1:30, get myself a coffee. Yeah, it might be a little bit tough. That's for damn sure. And for single entries, that's where like if you really wanted to take like a Fleetwood or a Hatton, like I'd be a lot more okay with it, right? So that would be my take for single entry contest. So over here for props, there's been a lot of adjustments done by these companies throughout the week. Early in the week, they had props posted at like 68.5 strokes for guys. They had guys at like 69 strokes, like Xander Schauffele, for example, that went out there and faded. They had guys like a Bryson DeChambeau. Where's Bryson at these days? They had him at 70 strokes. What is he on Prize Picks now? Well, he's 70.5. So I guess it hasn't gone up that much, right, as the week has gone on. But you've progressively seen a lot of these strokes go up. People have been talking about the track, right, putting respect on its name. You've heard people talking about it firming up even just over the last day or so out there. And you're seeing that reflected on the prop boards. A lot of guys here were at 4 birdies yesterday morning. Now they're at 3.5 birdies. Padraig Harrington, we took for under 4 birdies on our Patreon. He's now down to 3 birdies. I think the pendulum is starting to go a little bit too much in the other direction, right? Is why I'm starting to point out all of these fades. So much so that here in the video this afternoon, right, I pointed out like a Brooks Koepka under, like a Ricky Fowler under, right? Not a really horrible idea at all. Those are the kind of props that I'm taking now. It's not where most of my exposure is. Most of my exposure is on the fade side. That's why I said hopefully, the course play is difficult. But definitely the prop board now it's a little bit of a different beast compared to what we had when it first opened. It's the same thing over here in Underdog. The board has changed quite a bit. Towards the beginning of the week, we had guys at much lower strokes projections than what we currently have them at, which completely changes our strategy here, right? It's all about the pricing. It's all about trying to find the value. And at this point on Underdog, I think a lot of the value has moved on. So I think if you're going to play props at this point, the best spot to do it, especially because they moved Rory from 2 to 2.5 bogeys. Did they move Jon Rahm yet? No, so they have him off the board actually, right? He was at 2 bogeys. I took him for the over. They're at 2 bogeys. So I would stick to prize picks at this point. There are a few unders I like for the holes played props. I took the under on Billy Horschel. Horschel has been in dreadful form coming in, so I think that was a pretty solid spot to take. But even a few other unders and overs that you can consider here for the holes played side. So it's an interesting board. I like what we were looking at there. I like the early value that we locked in. But more importantly, guys, rounds 2 through 4 should be a gold mine, right? We're going to get a lot of data, be able to adjust based on what we're seeing in terms of the early conditions, and find a lot of extra value for the last 3 days. So if you haven't been able to get any props into this point, I would just say don't worry about it all that much, right? Just wait for rounds 2 through 4, or even just wait towards the beginning of round 1, right? You're going to be able to see if you wake up early, right? If you're one of the golf hardos like myself that's going to wake up at 1:30 a.m. and see how this course is playing, maybe enter some props, right? As the boards are still up there as play is beginning. So that's what I would say to do. That's what I'm going to do, right, with a lot of my exposure for this week, and hopefully make it a profitable one. So let's see, are there any prop questions? If not, we're hopping out of here. Hit the like button on your way out of here, guys. I appreciate you guys as per usual. And make sure to subscribe if you haven't already, because if you liked this live stream, you learned a lot here. You had a good time as well. Well, we're going to be doing streams for rounds 2 through 4 as well. Those will be showdown and prop based. So yeah, keep an eye out for those. Where are we at? Who's your fade up top? Scotty and Rory, both of them. Brendan Grace setting the pace right off the bat. That would be funny. I would be all for it, though, but it would be funny. What's going on, Wilson? Thoughts on Bez, their style, Bez, Kurt, and Wallace and Phil. I like all 4 of them, Robbie. I'm playing all 4 of them. So I think I'm there with you. I think we're in lockstep there with those 4 guys. If we had to talk about the style, right? They play difficult golf courses well, right? Bez has that reputation. Kurt played well, won the API. Wallace, same thing. Phil, he's played well at 2 of my top comp courses. He's played well at Kiowa Island. He's also played well at Muirfield, which are 2 major championship wins for Phil Mickelson. So definitely like it. Appreciate it, Wilson, of course. Keep up the good work. Absolutely. Thanks. Good luck. Appreciate you, Mark. And who do I like to win the Open? If I had to pick one player, it would be Jon Rahm Jetty. But yeah, I think Rahm, Brooks, maybe Ricky Fowler gets the job done. Definitely probably one of those 3 players. But that's all I've got, guys. We're going to go ahead, cut off the stream here. Until next time, best of luck with those lineups, those outright bets. Let's go out there, see a few of our names towards the top of a GPP leaderboard, and have ourselves a weekend at the last major. Keep an eye out on my social media, my Twitter specifically, for the stream go times, I should say, out there for rounds 2 through 4. And let's get it, boys.